Welcome back to the Basketball Show. Paul Sir, Ryan Reed. We actually were able to convince Steve to stay for a few minutes longer because we did not touch on the upcoming Canadian Elite Basketball League season, which gets going real soon. Steve is the assistant GM for the Edmonton Stingers. And Steve, when does the season kick off in Edmonton?
Well, we have training camp starting in a couple of weeks. And, the great thing about the CBL is that they know that the rivalry games are what they want to push. So we're going to open May 11th with Calgary. It's going to be a lot of fun. For everybody from the Edmonton area, they know that that's an important game. So it's a great way to kick off the season to start with our rivals right down the road. Absolutely.
Talk about your lineup for this year. You've had a couple of key pieces, longtime pieces for the Stingers retire. Adika Peter McNeely, now the head coach at Nate. Brody Clark moving back east. Talk about the roster that's being put together.
Those are big holes to fill. As everybody who's followed the Stingers know, those guys have been important pieces, cornerstone guys for the team since the beginning of the CEBL back in 2019. So you don't replace them right away because they do more than just help you on the court. There was a big part of the locker room leadership, connection and voice in the community. We're lucky to still have Adika around in the city as a collegiate coach, and I'm sure Brody will pop up at some point this summer as a supporter. But we're still bringing back, because this is something we believe in. They've been announced. Nick Hornsby's coming back. This will be his third year with us. He's been a terrific leader, strong play on the court, steady hand for the team. So we're excited to have him and his family back. Elijah Miller's back with us for a third year. He's having a fantastic year in Germany. He continues to just get better and better. One of those guys that first year needed an opportunity, was dying for an opportunity, got one, and then knocked it out of the park and just hasn't looked back since. So we're so excited to have him back. Isaiah Osborne will be back with us as well. He wasn't with us last year, but was with us the previous season. And he's having a good year in Romania. So familiar faces are going to be back. We have some other exciting announcements coming too on the roster side because we believe we're going to be competitive. The CBL continues to improve across the board. Every team is making a strong effort to not just be competitive, but try and win something. So that continues to light the fire for us that we got to be matching that or surpassing it. So I think for Stinger fans, they can expect some of the same things that they've been seeing for the last couple of years. Great crowd support. For me, I think we have the best crowd in the league, and I don't think that's close. And then good culture. Kids know when they come on the court and they're interacting with our guys after the game that we have people that understand the importance of representing themselves and representing the organization well in the community. And that's something that myself and Jordan Baker, the head coach, take a lot of pride in because we know the importance of that, being local guys. We expect to be competitive. We expect to play a fun style of play. We expect to hit shots. We expect to, get on the glass and expect the fans to be right there with us. So it's going to be an exciting summer of basketball.
And everybody, if you're if you haven't been to a Stingers game, you're really missing something. So make an effort to buy your tickets. Go to the Stingers. Watch them in Hall D over in the Expo Center. It's a wonderful venue. The sites are great. The brand new court that they have that they bought last year, lighting, seating, everything about the ambiance is fantastic. The Stingers organization always puts on a good show. Great entertainment. You're going to have a lot of fun, and you're going to see tremendous basketball. The emphasis in the CEBL, Steve, is to develop Canadian talent. They're very committed to that. They've been steadfast at the league level in making sure that the majority of players are Canadian. So I think it offers a pathway to young Canadian players that didn't exist 10 years ago, that's for sure. So it's a great and exciting time to have the CEBL just around the corner.
Makes for an exciting summer. It runs during that non-traditional basketball season, but it's been shown over the last few years. I know one of the things that was expressive, well, we have a long winter and people want to be outside. People love basketball, and it's awesome to see the support and the consistent continued support from Edmonton. Even if it is a beautiful night on a Thursday or a Saturday, people are still getting out there to support the team. And I know that comes from a variety of things. People like winning, and the Stingers have been winning a lot more than we've been losing. So that part's great. 2, an exciting brand of basketball, something that people will look forward to watching. And then 3, the type of player and personality that we've been bringing in. Gracious people, humble people, players that are committed to the game. We have, as a guy like Nick Hornsby has his family here with him. These are guys that have been in our community. They're not just, coming to Edmonton for a quick summer, grabbing a check and then headed home. They've really made an effort, and there's been efforts made by a variety of people to be out in the community and be seen and be contributing. And I don't want to use the term giving back, but understanding that that's a big part of it. So we're excited because it's like you said, the CEBL is doing a great job of promoting Canadian talent, and it is paying off because Canadians are getting more opportunity, continuing to improve and getting better. And that's obviously what you want for your country, because it just speaks great volumes for the quality of the game and where the game is headed.
Absolutely. And we wish the Stingers nothing but great success. And a lot of that success will be dictated by the community support that has been, as Steve said, so overwhelming, creating one of the great fan bases in the CEBL. Steve, thanks again for staying a bit extra. Girls, thanks for letting Dad stay a little bit longer.
Thanks, guys.
So, Ryan, let's jump over to the poll. What do we have in terms of people wanting to build their NBA franchise around a particular player?
The options on Twitter were Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, Jason Tatum, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. The number one answer so far has been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 62.5% of the vote. Nikola Jokic is second with 27.5% of the vote. Giannis is third with 10% of the vote. And Jason Tatum is dead last and with 0% of the vote. I think it may be, thinking about it, I think you might prefer maybe Anthony Edwards instead of Jason Tatum for some people. Just maybe the age thing.
That's a good point.
But again,
I went with the top 4 players.
Those are the 4 locks for All NBA 1, right?
Yeah. And Edwards should be a lock for the first team All NBA as well.
So it's just a lock. All 5 are locked in. Then you're saying?
I would think so. I can't think of. I mean, there are some other great players that you can make a strong case for. One being LeBron James, another being Steph Curry, but. Man, oh man, when you look at the season that Edwards has had, although he also leads the league in technical fouls and will miss the final game because he got his 18th technical foul of the year. And talk about youthful idiocy to get a T at the time when this game, and they, it's a game that the Wolves should easily win over Utah in Minnesota tomorrow, but why risk it? Why? Again, that shows a short-sighted, youthful arrogance.
Idiocy off the court too.
Well,
he has like 5 or 6 kids with 5 or 6 different women. He's
Edwards?
my age. Yeah.
Oh dear.
He's my age.
I did not know that.
August 01.
Sean's school.
During a free throw, the fans were chanting "child support."
Oh my gosh. Sean Kemp's School of Building Family. That's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that. I did not realize that, but. Anthony has a long. Let's just say Anthony's a work in progress, but one of the great NBA players on the court. So understandable. Canadian Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and I think you did a really good job in our comments early on, Ryan, talking about his age. I mean, he's a young man. He's not even at his peak yet, and he's just playing at such a great level. One of the things that I'm impressed with Gilgeous-Alexander is the way he takes care of himself. And his style of play, by the way, Ryan, lends itself to fewer injuries because he does not rely on the vertical and power part of his game to be expected. He plays a lot of the game below the rim. And
he's still very athletic, to be fair.
Right? Oh, absolutely.
But as you mentioned, he doesn't rely on it. So that means the longevity of his game is going to be, he'll be set for a while. He'll probably be playing at this level until he's, 33 probably?
If he stays healthy, and what we're talking about is giving himself the best chance to stay healthy, yeah, he should be. He should be very, very effective into his mid-30s. And I mean, there's to this point only been one LeBron James. But when you look at the level of play of LeBron, and LeBron's going to be second team All-NBA this year.
Year 22.
Yeah, and the Athletic has him 6th in MVP. In MVP voting. So, I mean, you've got a whole different opportunity for athletes to have much longer careers than you've had in the past. Yeah, and Anthony Edwards, he could be a team you'd want to build around, but I'll tell you, when I look at the four that we put out there, I would not take Edwards over any of those four.
Fair enough.
Tatum's had probably his best season of the year. I think the Celtics, it's interesting how the Celtics, the defending NBA champions, have been so overshadowed by the great unexpected play of Cleveland in the East. And while the Celtics have certainly narrowed the gap as the end of the year approached, they were not able to overtake Cleveland for the number one seed in the East, but they're very confident that they'll be ready for playoffs. And again, like we've talked about, they have that all-important first NBA championship under their belt. So, Ryan, let's jump over to like kind of a retrospective on the NBA season. And in the final segment, you and I are going to do a fun little exercise building on what you did in the final segment last week, where we're going to draft our all NBA teams. But let's talk about the NBA season. And some of them we're going to go really quickly, and others we're going to focus in on. Talk about OKC from your standpoint. You're a young guy. You've played the game. You feel, I know you have a strong feeling for it, but when you look at a team, I believe OKC is the youngest team. If they're not, they're the second youngest team in the league. And they've had this, historic season, flirting at one point with 70 games or 70 wins this season. They're going to fall a little short of that. But are they for real in your mind? They're 15 games ahead of second place in the West, but that ain't the playoffs. What are your thoughts?
It's not the playoffs, as you mentioned, but I think last year was kind of their trial run where it's like we can call them inexperienced. This year, they are obviously still not super experienced, and they are the youngest team in the NBA on average age, 24.4 years old. That's just a little older than me.
Yep.
So imagine the average. For me, it's hard to imagine the average player on the best team in the league by a landslide is my age, which is it's pretty crazy. Shea has gone through the ebbs and flows of a playoff season. They didn't win much. I think they were a second-round exit. They lost to Doncic in 6. But my younger brother is a diehard OKC fan, and I hear about them all the time. One of my better friends is also an OKC fan, and they're not a hard team to cheer for. How about that?
They're not. They're a very easy team to
like. Exactly. They don't have a lot of problematic stuff going on the court or off the court. Shea's an incredibly likable guy. I think sometimes they have some cringe moments when they're like barking post game, like at people.
I haven't seen the barking.
Yeah, they'll have they have a sideline reporter, and they'll bark at people in the stands, in like a cool way, I guess.
Playful way.
Playful way, yeah.
Well, they're 20. That's where you get into being the average age being 24.
Not a lot of people my age I know bark just unprovoked. But they actually made the sideline reporter do a bark once, and that was kind of crazy. But you know what? That is much better than having a bunch of random kids with random women or showing gun signs on the court, right?
Going from guns to grenades, like John Morant just recently.
You got to you'd much rather than be like a little like childish maybe than being irresponsible, right? So, and they've earned it. They've earned it. They have earned it, and I think this year they are going to win round one easily, probably against the Kings, or if it's the Grizzlies, they'll take care of them easily as well. If it's the Warriors somehow, that'll be a fun one, hey? Because if the Warriors could fall to 7, and then if they lose in the play-in round 1 and win the second one, that'd be a fun first series.
That'd be an unbelievable first series. And the Warriors do not have a great they have a terrible record in play-in games. So the Warriors are an interesting team. We'll get to them in just a second, but here's the key why I think they will be in the NBA Finals coming out of the West. And that's the acquisition of Hartenstein. For me, that was the key piece that I think has transformed them because Chet's a big guy. He's 7'1". He's really skilled, but Holmgren is still a rail. He's maybe 210 at 7'1", where Hartenstein gives you a big physical presence. So they can play small ball with depending on the matchups, with Holmgren being in there, or they can play bully ball and put Hartenstein in there, and he's a very imposing and very skilled physical presence in the middle. I think their wing players are outstanding, both on both sides of the ball. Lou Dort will be an all-NBA first team, and another Canadian.
You must have seen him somewhere in Canada. Eh?
I interviewed him.
Yeah, there you go.
I interviewed him. I saw him at Arizona State. Well, actually, he played in Edmonton in 2014 when we hosted the national championships. We had R.J. Barrett and Lou Dort here. He played for Quebec. And, I mean, I remember here's this 14-year-old kid going in and absolutely crushing a dunk on some poor other skinny little 14-year-old head. Like
Everyone's skinny at 14 except for Lou Dort.
Except Lou Dort. He looked like a halfback. Like he just was a brute. RJ was the best player. He was a U15 player, but was MVP by a landslide. And these guys were just unbelievable. So I saw Lou Dort there. I also saw him play for Bobby Hurley at Arizona State in his 1 year in Arizona. And after the game, I had an interview with him in the hallway outside of the locker room. Very nice guy, not 6'4", 6'2".
Makes it more impressive.
Absolutely. What an athlete. And here's how smart I am. After the game, I told my wife, I said, I just don't see him in the NBA. He doesn't shoot the ball well enough. And, he's athletic. But, boy, was I wrong.
You're a player to coach, but not a scout, I guess.
Well, I'm right more than I'm wrong.
Yes.
But boy, was I wrong on that, because it was really hard to measure how athletic the guy was. Like that night, Hurley didn't play him much. They seemed to be on the outs, at least for that game. And when he was in, he was very unimpressive offensively. But I do remember a sequence for about 2 minutes where he decided to lock down the best player from Cal, who they were playing when that was the Pac-12. And boy, did he lock him down. The guy couldn't breathe. He just suffocated him.
He would have been okay at Concordia for you, is what you're saying?
We would have started him. We would have found a place for him.
Yeah.
We would have found a role for him. But Lou Dort's, just tremendous. But going back to Hartenstein, they're just really diverse. They're really good. They're really together. They're well coached. They've got chemistry. They've got character. And you hit on something, though, that I think is the key to this team. Steve talked about it as well. When you start talking about the word gracious and humble, that oftentimes is a quality lacking in elite athletes. And while they may be flamboyant, if the way they play, if the way they relate to each other, to their communities, certainly to their families, if you've got that as part of your team culture, that cohesion, that trust grows a lot faster than when you have players that are in it for their own numbers, for their own contracts. And that has to be an outcome of your energy and your actions, not your primary motivation. And I think Oklahoma City, by skill, by philosophy, and to a certain extent by good fortune, to have a couple of Canadian athletes who, and this comment is made about most of the Canadians that play in the NBA, is they're more polite, they're more courteous than American players tend to be.
There's a trend of Canadians on championship teams.
Yeah, there are.
Like Jamal Murray just won one.
Yep.
Right?
100%. So, good for the Canadians. And when you look at the composition and makeup of the NBA, and they're, to jump to another topic, they're eyeing Europe now for expansion as well. But also, we'll touch on this a little bit later, but also the academy model that the EuroLeague has. The NBA is very intrigued by this because they realize in the U.S. that the AAU model does not work for player development and for character development, where the EuroLeague model definitely does. And so we're going to touch on that a little bit. I want to continue on with a couple of other teams before we jump to break. Cleveland, the Cavs, you can't help but be excited about them. The all-NBA first team that I saw picked Donovan Mitchell over Anthony Edwards. And I don't agree with that on one hand, because Edwards, I think, has had a superior season. But on the other hand, I get why they did it, because Mitchell is a bit of addition by subtraction, in that Mitchell has shown he can average 30 points a game, but he has been willing to have his numbers go down to be a better teammate. And the play of his teammate Garland in the backcourt. But then when you look at the development of the surprise development of Evan Mobley, who might be the defensive player of the year, and his offensive production has gone through the roof. You look at that and you look at Cleveland and you go, I don't think they're ready. I think they're going to lose to Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. But man, that's an imposing team, and we'll see how they progress. They got to win they've got to win the series. They got to win 2 series to get there. But B, when they get there, if they improve, if they mature, they could be a formidable opponent for Boston, particularly if Kristaps Porzingis isn't healthy. And we know Kristaps Porzingis' health is really critical to Boston's ability to repeat this year.
A quick note for the Cavs: if they make the final and somehow host LeBron and the Lakers, that'd be a crazy final, wouldn't it?
Oh my God!
LeBron playing Cleveland for it all.
Oh my gosh, that'd be crazy to.
Yeah, or even just Lakers Celtics would be great too.
Lakers Celtics, in Lakers anybody with Luka and LeBron would be incredible.
Mobley for Defensive Player of the Year. I think Mobley's the Defensive Player of the Year, just straight up. But I thought it was crazy how Draymond Green was not really supposed to be a part of it. And then when Wemby went down, Draymond Green had a press conference and he was talking about like Defensive Player of the Year odds. He's like, you know what, I should be Defensive Player of the Year. Then all of a sudden he just shot up to the number 1 guy for odds. He just said it, and then all of a sudden he was the Defensive Player of the Year favorite. I'd ask Draymond, like, what are you better at defensively than Evan Mobley?
Well, Draymond Green,
he's a very good defender. He'll be all defensive first team, I think.
He will be.
But I'm not sure what he's better at defensively than Mobley.
I'm not sure either. And I think on-ball defense at every position, you probably have to say Draymond Green is as good as anybody in the league. But the element that Mobley brings is he can both guard the wing, the point, the post, and he can change shots at the rim. That's where he's kind of different than everybody, is his mobility.
He's Wemby light, basically.
Yeah, he's Wemby light.
Defensively.
Defensively, he's Wemby light, but I'd say he's, in some respects, he's certainly better than Wemby.
He's probably laterally,
away from the basket. He's better than that. But that makes Cleveland really an intriguing team. You know, jumping to the Western Conference, before we get to the Clippers, let's talk about Houston. Where the heck did this come from? Houston.
Ime Udoka.
Yeah, Udoka is just had an incredible year after his, leaving Boston in an unfortunate personal decision situation where he was let go because of some dalliance in the front office. But now going to Houston and toughening them up. And then the emergence of some of their players that last year, 2 years ago, they were dreadful. Last year, they were somewhat better. But this year, their ability to win tough games has been more than impressive. They have a center who you've had an issue with because he has, when it came to the Western Conference All-Stars, he was picked in front of your guy Sabonis. And but his emergence this year has been incredible.
Just a quick note there. You're on a roll here with words. Throwing dalliance in there. You have me Googling words here.
Yeah, okay. Well, those are big words.
Your lexicon. There you go.
I don't have the Twitter pronunciation yet, but yes.
Anyways, so yeah, Şengün being an all-star, I thought it made sense because you need to have the 2 seed. They need to have an all-star, right? It's tough to have a number 2 seed in the West, especially, and just have no all-star appearances at all. So I do get it. I do think Sabonis, well, I guess maybe not as of late, but like at the time, I thought Sabonis was a decently bit better than Şengün. But now that team is so good and so well coached. They seem to know what they want. And honestly, first round matchup I think right now would be against the Timberwolves. And they have a lot of guys. Like it's not often where the best player in the series for a 2-7 game is no questions asked the 7 seed. Yeah. Anthony Edwards would be the best player in the series, no questions asked. But if there's a team that you want to pick to combat that, it probably is the Rockets. They can throw a lot of guys at Anthony Edwards, right?
Well, they do.
They got some athleticism they can throw at him, and I feel like that might, if I'd take the Rockets on that one.
I think I would too, as much of a Timberwolves fan as I am. But I think this is an interesting parallel. Isn't it intriguing that when you talk about the Houston Rockets, you're using a lot of the same descriptors that you use for the Houston Cougars?
Just a Texas thing, I guess.
Yeah, it's got to be a Texas
Houston thing, maybe not.
Yeah,
a Texas
Houston thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got what you would say is that Houston is probably the toughest team in the NBA. Hard-nosed.
Agitators, too.
Agitators. Absolutely. Physical, tough-minded.
Şengün has moments of softness, but maybe that's just like because I have a little animosity towards him.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, but you were soft, too. So you can relate.
I was very soft.
No, I'm just... But I think, Şengün has been a revelation, I think. Freddie VanVleet, the ex-Raptor from the glory day that the Raptors had. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But I think, Houston really makes the Western Conference interesting because they bring... In a very tough conference, they bring a level of toughness that even the Western Conference teams, as good as they are not accustomed to play against. And I'm real interested in seeing how that toughness will translate over a 7-game series. We're going to take a break right now. Then we're going to come back for our final segment. You're listening to The Basketball Show on Sports 1440 with Ryan and Paul. One of the things I love about radio is playing the intro songs. I love it so much. And Earth, Wind, and Fire is probably my all-time favorite radio band. And September, of all their great, great hits, is probably my favorite song. So, man, just love that song. The Basketball Show, Sports 1440. Paul, Sir, Ryan Reed, our text line, 1-833-401-1440. Again, 833-401-1440. Ryan and I are going to do a fun draft in just a moment, but before we do that, I do want to touch on the Lakers, particularly from this vantage point, Ryan. Not so much they pretty much locked up the number 3 seed in the West. I think they've exceeded expectations this year, particularly, of course, after the arrival of the great Luka Doncic. But there was a moment this week that I think transcends sports, and that's the human element of Luka Doncic's return to Dallas for the Laker-Maverick matchup this past week, and the sincere tears of Luka during the tribute video that was played pre-game. I don't know if you saw that, Ryan.
I did.
But that was genuinely a special human moment, wasn't it?
It just shows that Luka's ties to Dallas are going to be lifelong. And I don't know if you saw this too, but after the game, he didn't fly back with the team to LA. He stayed after and hosted a couple of events in Dallas for the kids and gave back a little bit more to his basically, he got there as a teenager, right? So he essentially grew up as an adult in Dallas. And it kind of shows that loyalty to a city. It's beyond just it being an actual, like, a bunch of buildings. It means something to your heart, right? So you got to feel for Luke a little bit there. It was also crazy how the entire crowd was chanting, "Fire Nico," and Nico just sitting there on the sideline. Sitting there.
If there is one team that should have made a personnel change in the front office, it's the Dallas Mavericks, although the ownership was complicit, of course, in this. One of Mark Cuban's interesting comments was that when he sold his majority interest in the Mavericks, he thought he would still be consulted because of his decades of experience of running an NBA game, that he would be consulted when big moves were being made, and he had to find out, like everybody else, about this ridiculous trade.
There's lots of videos of him on the sideline just shaking his head when Luke is like, he had 45 on the Lakers too. And there's a quote from Mark Cuban way back in the day, or not back in the day, like in probably like 2021. But he's like, if you asked me I had to do one of the either, I'd either divorce my wife or trade Luka Doncic. He said, catch me at the court office filing papers to divorce my wife. And then as soon as he sells the majority stake a year later, he's gone.
These idiots, and they are idiots, make this unbelievable move.
What would you do if you're just sitting the courtside for a team that you own and all the fans are yelling, "Fire Paul"? What would you do?
I would be.
You just like sit there? Would you leave, or are you just taking it in?
I guess you just have to take it in. Like, he has no choice but to take it in because, number one, he earned it, but number two, it's his job, and number three, he has to accept the court of public opinion's decision, and they all want him fired, and he should be. But the reason he won't be is because it's what he did, the bidding of the owners, and it's as stupid as it is. And just the asterisk always to that is Anthony Davis is a great player, but they didn't get draft picks. No. Boston OKC, the way they've built these strong teams is through trading for picks. And you give away one of the top 3 players in the game, and you don't get any picks for it. You get an injury-prone all-NBA talent, but that ain't enough. It's just silly. So, it was a human moment. Luka torched them. The Lakers are going to be intriguing as we go into the playoffs, certainly. All right, we got to draft an all-time team here. So, Ryan, why don't you walk us through what we're going to be doing? And, again, the text number is 833-401-1440. If you have an opinion on any of our draft picks or you want to make a case for any of your draft picks, please let us know, 833-401-1440.
So I did a draft similar to this last week when it was just me on the last segment. It was a ChatGPT draft. I drafted a team, and I told ChatGPT to draft against me. And then I told it to simulate the game, and I gave a little bit of feedback. And people liked it from the text messages that I got and the people I saw after. So I thought we'd do it this week, but it's going to be Paul versus me. And then I'm going to put the teams into ChatGPT, and we're going to simulate the team, and I'll get some stats. I'll get who wins. Except this time we're going to do an all-time draft, and Paul elected to pick first. So it's going to be a snake draft like those who do fantasy football, fantasy basketball. We're going to snake draft it. So it goes, Paul gets the first pick. I get the second and third picks. He gets 4, 5. I get 6, 7. He gets 8, 9, and I get 10. And then we'll each have 5 players. We're going to do, I guess you don't have to draft by position, but ChatGPT will take that into account. And we're just going to put it in the simulator, and we're going to see who wins.
All right, I'm ready to go.
Okay, first pick goes to Paul. Play the music like bum 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 ba-da-dum bum bum.
That's beautiful. Alan Iverson. No, I'm joking.
It was the first pick, I guess.
Yeah, he was. Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan with the first pick. I think that makes sense, I guess.
Oh, what are you talking? I guess.
I'll take LeBron and with the pick 2. Was that a reaction to my?
Oh,
my
no.
I guess we'll just call it even. I said I guess,
me.
And you'll scoff.
Don't mind me.
I'll take LeBron and Kareem.
Good choices.
That's better than my reaction to yours. Thank you. I'm flattered.
Yes. Okay. So now I get 2 now, right?
Yep.
Okay. I'll go with Bird and
lots of options.
I'm going to go with Bird and Magic.
Magic, great pick. I was going to pick Magic.
Okay.
So there you go. Now I get 2, and I am going to go with Steph Curry. I think I have to put him in the ball action with LeBron would just be too hard to pass up at this point.
Great choice.
And I'm going to go with there's lots of big men at the top of the board, but it's like you can't have so many big men, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll pick Curry, and I'll go with I'm going to pick Kevin Durant. Let's go a little bit of a modern team here. LeBron, Kareem, Curry, and Durant is my team so far.
Okay.
You're up.
Great choices. I'll go with
2 picks to round out your team.
I'm going to go with a power forward with Timmy Duncan at the power forward. And then let's see. You know what? I'm gonna go with Bill Russell in the post because I love the idea of Russell's athleticism and defensive diversity. So you've got a rim protector who doesn't need the ball to really be effective. You've got a great power forward in Duncan. So, yeah, I'll go with that. So, yeah. So my team is Jordan, Magic, Bird, Tim Duncan, and Bill Russell.
How many wins do you think that team would have
82,
in a season? Do you think they don't lose one? Yeah.
It'd be tough to beat. I mean, they're beatable. I mean, because Magic and Bird are not elite defenders, but they're just so great at what they do.
Okay, so my team right now is LeBron, Kareem, Curry, Durant, and now I have 1 pick left, and I'm gonna pick Kobe Bryant's on my mind, but I don't know completely if that's gonna be the move.
Kobe.
You know what? I'll pick Giannis for the 4. It's gonna be a bit of a bold pick. Would you say he's higher than Kobe all time? Probably not. No.
Boy, that's a tough one.
It's honestly, they're both like in that like probably 8. No, Kobe. I'd have to say Kobe's higher. Just he's 1.5, right? But
yeah, But Kobe had
But maybe just pure skill-wise. Well, for two of them he didn't, and Giannis only has one without Shaq, I guess, quote unquote, right?
Yeah. That's a tough choice because they're two different players, two different positions. But you've got a guy who won 5 and a guy who's won 1, and a guy who could shoot and a guy who can't. But the versatility of Giannis is just unbelievable.
Okay, I have the simulated result here.
Okay.
Between the two teams. So they nicknamed our teams for us here. They have your team, they call it the Legends of Legacy. How do you feel about that?
I guess.
Are the movie rights available for that one?
I hope so. Legends of Legacy. I like that.
So it's described your team as basketball IQ through the roof, defensive, playmaking, clutch gene. This team will grind you down with precision. Is that an accurate assessment, you think, of your squad?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Mine is called the Modern Marvels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, AI is ridiculously cool.
For me, it says sheer offensive firepower, size, speed, shooting, impossible to guard in transition or on the perimeter, which is that's a big part of the game, I guess. So the simulated game result, they said it would go to 7 if it was a playoff series, neutral court, and then the prime versions of everybody. That was their characteristics. They said the Modern Marvels beat the Legends of Legacy 114 to 108. The box score, the key stats: Legends of Legacy, Michael Jordan 34-6-4 and 3 steals. Larry Bird is 18. Magic has 12 and 11. Tim Duncan 14 and 12. Bill Russell 8 points, 4 rebounds, 5 blocks, and 2 steals. That's your traditional Bill Russell game.
How many rebounds?
14.
Okay.
Do you think that's accurate in the modern game? Would he get 14 or would he get?
No,
he probably wouldn't get 25 like he did back in the day.
No, that's a different era. Yeah, but 14's fair.
For my team, they said LeBron gets 28, 10, and 8. Curry 24 points with 6 3-point makes and 5 assists. KD 26 and 7. Giannis 16 and 13 and 3 blocks. And then Kareem 20 and 11 and 3 blocks. The game highlights, they said, Curry gets hot in the third and drops 4 threes in a 2-minute stretch that swings momentum. MJ keeps Team 1 in it, surprise, surprise, with the classic late run. He had 10 straight in the fourth, he said. And then he said that it's his final minute. LeBron drives, kicks to KD, who hits the dagger 3 over Larry Bird. The post-game take, it says here, the Legends controlled tempo early, but Modern Marvels broke it open with spacing and transition play. The defensive MVP was Giannis. His help defense was insane. And then it said offensive MVP, LeBron. Perfect balance of scoring and creating.
Well, AI is wrong. They are wrong. There is no possible scenario I could ever think of with that team on the court where LeBron James gets those numbers against that kind of opponent. Now, Bird can't guard LeBron straight up and stop him, but he can bother him. Bird's numbers are ridiculously low, and there's no way LeBron is the dominant talent with those numbers on that team. Absolutely no way. Like, they have Jordan being the leading scorer. That I get. But LeBron James in that 10, no way. So he is that effective.
I responded to ChatGPT and I said, Team 1 says there's no possible scenario where LeBron gets those numbers against that team. And they said, yo, fair. You're not wrong to question that stat line. That's what he said. And he said, let's get a revised game. So it says revised game take, more defense, more sweat. It says final score, Legends of Legacy 102, lower scoring, Modern Marvels 98.
So it
gives you the win because I kind of asked it too, granted.
Yeah.
But it said MJ 31, 7, and 4 in this new one, and they held LeBron to 27 and 6 with 5 turnovers. And it says in a little note here, struggled against the wall of Russell and Duncan, but still made some big plays.
I guess.
But fair enough.
LeBron's struggling against Russell.
2 of the greatest defensive players ever.
Oh, my God. LeBron would do more than struggle against those guys. One of the great aspects of LeBron's game is the way he's able to physically overwhelm his defender. Who's he going to overwhelm?
Larry?
To a point, but Bird was a crafty defender. He wasn't a quick defender, but project this out as well. If you put into and go back to AI on this, put peak Bird against peak LeBron and ask for their stat lines when they're the same age, like 28 or 29 when they're at their peaks. Bird's numbers are better than LeBron's, and Bird is an incredible team player. Magic, an incredible facilitator. So you've got. I just don't see any way LeBron has the high 20s against that team as the primary offense. I can see somebody else. I can see Curry getting a little bit more, although Michael would lock him down. Michael would bother him.
Michael would. Yeah, Michael's one of the most talented defensive players as well. Your team is full with just defensive talent that has obviously offensive talent as well, but defensive is the big thing for your team. Hey,
well, they're grinders. They're bulliers.
Yeah.
They're physical. They're big. I mean, you're going.
Your shortest guy is like 6'6".
That's Michael.
Yeah,
Michael's 6'6".
Yeah.
Magic and Bird are 6'9". Bird's more 6'10" than 6'9". Magic's more 6'8" than 6'9". But then you've got Russell at 6'9". But the thing with Russell was his athleticism and his timing and his skill, and Duncan 6'11". So
I put the peak seasons together for Larry Bird and LeBron. So they said Larry Bird's peak season was 85-86. That's when the Celtics went 67-15. He won MVP in the title. That's probably fair. Would you agree that's the peak season?
Yep.
LeBron, they said the peak's arguable, but many agreed 2012, 2013 Heat LeBron is when he won MVP. They were 66-16. They won the finals run. He should have won Defensive Player of the Year, but Gasol took it even though he was all defensive second team.
Yep.
Anyways, points that season, LeBron 26.8, Bird 25.8. Rebounds, Bird 9.8, LeBron 8.0. Assists, Larry Bird 6.8, LeBron 7.3. Steals 2 for Larry, 1.7 for Bron. Blocks 0.6 Bird, 0.9 Bron. Field goal percentage, LeBron was 56.5%, Bird was 49.6%. 3-point percentage, LeBron was 40.6%. Larry Bird was 42.3%. Free throw percentage, Larry Bird 89.6%, LeBron 75.3%. And they both won MVP. And defensive rating, LeBron had him by 5 points. LeBron was 98 and 98.3, and LeBron was 90.3. Larry Bird is 103.
Well, you know what?
It's close.
It's
honestly
really
the peak,
close.
It's like because the thing with LeBron is not that his peak is. His peak was ridiculous. I'd argue it's honestly, unstatistically, I'd say his peak was that one LeBron year, that 1-3-1 year.
Yeah. Or
when it was 28. Like I think he lost in 5 to the Warriors. I think at the finals. But when he took that sorry Cavaliers team to the finals.
Yeah.
And when he that
was his greatest moment.
That was crazy. He didn't win it, but anyways, so. That's the argument with LeBron, where it's like it's more like this huge peak. But Larry Bird's peak versus like LeBron's best season, you can kind of see the comparison.
100%. And the comparison's valid, but I think what the numbers tell me is LeBron in his prime was a much better defensive player than oftentimes people think of him. That's number one. But number two, for Larry Bird is, for the critics of Bird, it's always his lack of athleticism and explosion. But when you see a defensive rating like that, he's still a good defender. And I think when you watch, era basketball, which is very, very different. The 80s is very different than now. Spacing, completely different. Athleticism, overall, completely different. But you watch how hard Bird worked and how he defended. He could get beat off the dribble or off the bounce by a quicker, more athletic player, but not that often. And what people will say is, you can't believe how big Larry Bird is. I saw Bird.
Said 6'10", right?
Well, they list him at 6'9". He's all of that, if not more. And I've heard like Jamal Mashburn, the great Kentucky player, Dallas Maverick, NBA player. He has great stories about Larry Bird when Bird played for the Dream Team. And one of the things that Mashburn said was, you have no idea how big Bird is. He said, I had never met Bird before, but I met him in the elevator. And Mashburn's listed at 6'8". And he said, the guy came in, he's 4 inches taller than me. And he goes, you guys better get your rest tonight because you're going to get a whooping tomorrow.
Well, that's the thing they say in this ChatGPT, that Larry Bird wasn't scared of anybody.
100%.
And it said his best trash talk of all time was there was a guy guarding him and he scored a couple buckets on him. And then he turns to the coach. He's like, "Get this white guy off of me."
Oh yeah, there's so many great stories on. There's many stories about that one fact. Barkley tells the story. Who was the other guy for Phoenix? Dan. They put Dan Marley on Bird, and he walked by the Phoenix coach, and he said, "This is an insult. This is an insult. You can't. You don't have a brother that can guard me." You have to give me a white guy. He would do that every time. And I mean, the stories of Larry Bird's trash talking they're worth Googling because they're unbelievable. You know, the legendary story to James Worthy of, you know what, guys, I'm going to go here. I'm going to flare to the corner and I'm going to take the shot and I'm going to beat you. It was a last second shot and there's nothing you can do about it. He told that to Worthy. So Worthy goes out and Bird takes Worthy up to a screen and Worthy thinks, I'm going to jump the screen and intercept the pass. But Bird slipped backwards to the corner. Ball goes right to Bird in the corner. Worthy's diving at him for the shot. Bird hits the shot, wins the game, and just walks off. And just trash talk story after trash talk story. And man, oh man, they are so fun to listen to because Bird could always back it up. And it was never the only one that I heard that was embarrassing to embarrass a player was he was talking to, I think it was Craig Elo from the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Elo's claim to fame is there's a great clip of Michael Jordan doing a double clutch shot against the Cavaliers to win a 7-game series. And then afterwards, he's doing all these fist pumps. I don't know if you've ever seen that, Ryan.
Yeah.
That's great. That's Craig Elo. That was the defender. But Bird said to Elo, he said, I hope your mom's not watching because I'm just going to embarrass you tonight. And
he probably did.
And he dropped like 45 on him. And
well, wasn't there a left hand one too?
I was against Portland.
Yeah.
He goes,
I'm just going to use my left hand.
I'm just going to score on you left-handed tonight. And he had over 40 points. And the vast majority were left-handed, including a free throw. And so, I mean, the guy...
If he didn't just drink and smoke in between games, then he'd be... And the injuries avoided him, then he'd be...
Well, I was listening to B.J. Armstrong talking about generational players. And, of course, he had the right perspective, in my opinion, where he said you can't compare generations because there's all progressions. It's like the insulting comment of Laker coach J.J. Redick about Bob Cousy, saying he played against firemen and plumbers. Might have been true because NBA players then were paid $5,000 a year, you arrogant ass. And so Jerry West, he had a great line about Redick. He said, Redick insults all these old school players, but what's J.J. Redick won? He said, don't talk to me, J.J. I've won a championship. I'm on the logo. You know, don't talk about players in my generation because we would have kicked your butt. But B.J. Armstrong said the same thing. Can you imagine Bill Russell, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson in today's era with what we know about training, injury treatment, and
not
nutrition?
Smoking at halftime.
Not smoke. Well, that Dave DeBusschere from he was a great player for the NBA champion New York Knicks. After every game, he had a 6-pack of beer. So I mean, it was a very different world back then. But it's on their shoulders that the NBA is what it is today, and the players are making the money that they make today because of the plumbers and the firemen. And, to diminish a player like Bob Cousy, who really invented creativity in basketball. He was the first guy with the behind-the-back dribble, the behind-the-back passes, the over-the-shoulder no-look passes. Those were done 60 and 70 years ago. So those all inspired what happens today. Everything's getting better and better. Training, discipline, nutrition, strength, longevity, equipment, shoes, you name it. It's all better.
There was a quote that Bob said March 21st. I actually saved it for a moment that you'd bring this up. But he said he claimed that the game changed so massively in the 90s that the old school style of play would get no success. He said, quote, in basketball, you see 7-foot guys doing things like a 6-footer. We shot as in Cousy said, we shot 40%. That wouldn't get you by in Division III. That's what he said. How do you feel about that?
He's right. He's 100% right.
But still, they paved the way. Regardless.
They were the best.
It wasn't about the stats.
In the infancy of the game. That's the whole thing. Naismith invented the game in the late 1800s. The NCAA didn't start till the 1930s. I mean, if you watch college basketball. I watched a national championship game between UCLA and Purdue, I believe, in 1969. Guys are dribbling up the left side with their right hands, and the opposing team's defense started at the free throw line. But there you get into Pete Maravich. All of a sudden is shooting from 25 feet. Nobody did that before.
He was the Curry before Curry.
He was.
Right?
He was the Curry before.
Well before Curry.
And Maravich completely reinvented the game with what he did. He was the Van Gogh of basketball. He created out of nothing things that only he conceived that are now mainstays in the game that we watch today, including long-distance shooting, including handling the ball with both hands.
And flair in general.
Oh,
right.
Flair, showmanship. I mean, Maravich was a showman when nobody was a showman. And
people didn't like it at first.
Well, they didn't. They were adverse to it because it was change. But the change has evolved into a much more exciting, dynamic, highly skilled basketball game that we have the privilege of watching today, the way that the game has evolved. So we got some games tomorrow. Who do you think, Golden State or the Timberwolves, are going to be the 6th seed in the West in your?
I think that the Golden State Warriors will, but I think if
you think Golden State will beat the Clippers? Because
yes.
What do the Clippers have? What do they need? Do they need anything?
If the Clippers win, they're not in the play-in. If the loser of that game's in the play-in.
Okay, so the Clippers have to win and
yes.
the Warriors have to win.
So they're both going to be going at it.
So you're picking the Warriors over
I
the
say
Clippers.
the Warriors win it.
I'm
they get
picking the Clippers.
Okay. I hope the Clippers get it because I feel like a LeBron Curry first round is unfortunate. We need a LeBron Curry conference final. Or
I don't know if
conference semi.
And I don't know what we're going to see because the Clippers are really good.
I know.
And they're playing really well.
They only beat the Kings by 1, I will say, yesterday.
Yeah.
They should have beat them by more, but
well, yeah, and the Warriors and the Wolves have no one to blame themselves for the position that they're in. The Wolves are up 24 on Milwaukee in the second half and lose last week, and the Warriors lose to San Antonio without Wemby, without Fox at home on Iowa boy Harrison Barnes. Really exciting three-pointer.
He's Ames, right?
Ames,
Iowa's finest.
Ames, Iowa's one of the finest. There's a lot of good Ames, Iowa basketball players. Freddie Hoiberg is another one.
Bulls head coach legend, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, they have no one to blame, but it's so interesting how over 82 games, the marathon we've talked about the whole time on the show, Ryan, that you've got this 82 game marathon. But when you don't take care of business, you can always look back on all these instances through the course of the year when you had control in a game you should win and you let it go, and now that comes back to haunt you and all the pressure's on the line. I'm going with the Wolves at the 6th seed, and we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. It's going to be a very exciting next couple days here, and in the play-in too. I mean,
absolutely.
The Kings will be in the playoffs, mark my words.
Absolutely. I do a blog every week. You can find our blog on our on my 3x3 website, 3x3ba.ca. Talk about a lot of these matters, and Ryan and I are going to turn it up a notch in terms of the coverage that we have during the week in the upcoming NBA playoffs. So thanks so much for everybody for joining us today, spending your Saturday morning with us on the basketball show on Sports 14.